Hello, everybody. Welcome to Iconics. I am Joseph Whitnick, and I'm about to introduce you to my friend slash sister from another country, Chris Sorby. But for right now, I would just like to share thank you for you tuning in. Remember, there are many documentaries that we have in the YouTube Iconics Live, and please share them, like them, do everything that you need to do to them for us to build and continue forth. These are amazing documentaries that have never been seen. Many of them are first times, and they're of everything from product development to NAHA winners to salon owners, you name it. I always like to tell you though, as I do in every beginning, make sure that you always have paper and a pen. You never know when you're going to hear an interesting quote, a book that you might want to pick up and read, or something of just inspirational motivation. And today is really special to me. I've been in the industry much longer than this particular young woman, and I have followed her through her days like crazy. Not stalking. It wasn't called stalking back then. But I cannot wait to talk and interview her today. But first, what I'm going to do is send you off to Chris Sorby, who's in Oxford, England. Chris Sorby, how are you today? You look great as always.
I am really good. Kind of bittersweet because we were in New York last week before last, and it was wonderful to be back home there. But anyway, we're back in our home in Oxford, and life is good.
Glad
And hey, I am so excited. This lady is a personal friend of mine and has been for, I think, about 30 years, probably. Yeah. She was the very first woman to be named North American Hairstylist of the Year at the prestigious NAHA Awards that Joseph just mentioned. She was awarded the Leo Passage Educator of the Year Award. She's stylist to countless stars and celebrities. She's worked with major designers at New York Fashion Week. She's an editorial stylist, salon owner, and director of education for the Sally Hershberger salons, both in New York and LA. Meet this extraordinary lady. Her name is Mary Brunetti. And I got all emotional there.
Well, it is such an honor. I mean, extreme honor to be here. You know how much I adore you. I mean, since day one, it was like meant to be. It was love at first sight.
Yeah, it certainly was for me too. And, Mary, since then and over all of those years, sorry, I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of history, a lot of tough history and wonderful history.
Yeah, and it's history that made you who you are. And I'd like for you, with your permission, to share some of the tragedies that have happened in your life and to share what you learned through those, because I know you learned a lot.
Listen, I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. And if anybody can learn from the situations that I've been put in, then so be it. That's wonderful. We learn from each other.
And I cannot wait myself. But you know what? I want to get us back to the beginning. So for some that are viewing and just getting on here right now, and they've read about you, they've obviously in this day and age Googled you, they would have a lot of questions. But I want to ask the first question of, take me back, Mary, to the beginning of where and why you started in the hair industry. How did that happen? What does that look like?
It's funny because I never meant to be a hairdresser. My dad had his own hair salon back in the 60s, and that's when everybody was doing wash and sets. And the women would come in, drop off their hair at the desk, go get their hair shampooed. And anyway, long story short, I mean, back then I was 12, 13, 14 years old. So my dad put me to work because I loved the environment of the hair salon. But I wasn't old enough to do hair, certainly. So they taught me how to do the wigs and wiglets in the back room. And then the people would drop the hair off. It would come to me. I would brush it out, set it, comb it out on the wig block, and then send it back out. But the entire time I worked for my dad, when people would say, oh, this is wonderful, you're going to go into your dad's business, I'd say, I'm not going to be a hairdresser. I'm never going to be a hairdresser. No, I'm going to be a famous fashion designer. So what ended up happening was, after graduating high school, my father tragically was killed in between the time of me working for him and then actually graduating high school. But and Chris, you were probably there that night that I was awarded North American Hairstylist of the Year. I felt his presence so strong up there that I felt like I could have passed that trophy right to him. You know, how proud he must have been. But when I graduated high school, I went into New York, well, I was in New York, but went into Manhattan to go to art school. After a year, the commute was too much. I couldn't really afford an apartment there. So I decided, well, I have a knowledge of how to move hair around. Unisex hair cutting was just like taking off big time in salons. So I actually left art school to get my license. And then my plan was to be a hairdresser, just to be able to finish school and move into Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
And I moved to Italy after I got my license. I moved to Florence, went to the University of Florence to study art again. Guess what I did the whole time I was there? Hair.
Yeah.
So I realized while I was living in Italy, as much as I love art, which of course our industry, we are artists, I realized hair was my medium.
Can I be so bold to ask you, what age were you when you took that leap from here to there?
Well, I was 21. I was just turning 21 when I packed up everything and moved to Italy.
Wow.
I only came back from Italy because my mom had remarried and was having my little sister, Nicole, and nobody was having babies in their 40s. And I was having these dreams that something horrible was going to happen. So I really just took a flight to make sure my mother was going to be okay, and stayed. Actually met my husband, my now husband, who was the artistic director in the first salon I really ever worked in. And we didn't like each other because I was at Studio 54 most of the time. And I would just like kind of stumble into work when anyway, it doesn't matter.
How funny.
Well, I tell this story on stage just briefly all the time, that I actually went over the artistic director's head to the owner and said, I don't need this kind of training. I have the personality. Put me on the floor. I promise you, you're going to be happy. I will build a clientele. So anyway, he believed me, right? Put me on the floor. The first day I was on the floor, that the artistic director and the owner saw me sweating and came over and took the scissor and comb out of my hands. And then when I tell an audience this, you get the big gasp, right? And I said, you know what I did? I married him. I didn't quit. I got the talking to, Mary, we think you're going to be wonderful if you just settle in and stay for training. Otherwise, let's part friends. And that was my epiphany in the industry.
Oh, wow.
And my crossroads, where I said, you know what? I really do want to be as good as this as I could be. I do want to be one of the great ones. And anyway, I stayed and I trained, and here I am.
Wow.
And with Michael, who is absolutely delicious.
And you know, he gets better looking every year.
Oh, he's
That's fair.
inside, outside. He is
Yes, he's a wonderful human being. He drives me crazy and I love him.
That's a great story. That's a great story. That's a great beginning story.
Yes.
It is. But then, Mary, what happened?
After that, well, so I become this, quite by chance, I become what we call in New York, what you call an editorial or a session stylist, we just call freelance. So because at the time I was working for Beth Minardi, I had left the salon where my husband was, I was working for Beth Minardi, and all of a sudden I started getting calls from one of my clients who was the artistic director of a big jewelry store in Manhattan called Fortune Offs. They use live models on their covers. And she said, Mary, our hair and makeup artist just left the studio. We're in the middle of a huge shoot. Can you come over and do hair and makeup for the cover of the jewelry brochure? And I said, I never did print work before. And she said, I'll give you $750 for half a day. This is in the 80s. I said, I'll be right there. I'm sure I can figure this out. And then one thing led to another. And instead of having to do the whole testing phase that most hairdressers coming into New York have to do if you want to be freelance, that photographer started calling me on other jobs. Fortune Offs kept calling me back. I kept meeting more and more artistic directors, more photographers. My husband always says, and it's so true, people lead to people. So before you knew it, I had to leave Beth Minardi Salon because I was just freelance, which is wonderful in New York. I mean, that's when you're really pulling down a lot of money, which is a wonderful thing, you would think, right? Because here's your quality of life. You got to make a choice at this crossroad. Here's your quality of life, and here's your career. When you start making crazy money, this is quality of life. Could very well be, which happened to me, this happened, right? And without me even realizing it, the money became the motivator, because the more I was making, the more I was, I guess, wanting. And I was on the road all the time. I was on location. So my marriage started to fall apart, right? Now, my husband had a salon, a beautiful salon, a big one with 60 employees on Long Island. I would go there, just to train everybody, but I wasn't paying attention to anything other than my career. And because my career became number one, everything else went to doo-doo, I'll say. And I almost got divorced. And in that time, my husband's salon burned down. And at that time, we were living the apartment in Manhattan, the home in the Hamptons, the horse trailer, the Mercedes. Before you know it, we were living at the top of our, I mean, we had the appearance that we had all this. We were making money, but we were spending it as quickly as we were making it. And then half our income gets wiped out because the salon overnight burns to the ground, right? So now here I am. My marriage is bad. I ignored it. Half my income was gone. And we went into what I call, and you know this story, we call it survival. I was given the choice. I mean, well, first things first, I looked at my husband and I said, the most important thing to me in my life has always been my relationship with God, my relationship with my husband, my family, which, I mean, if I could get that time back, which you can't get that time back. So you got to know when you choose your career, but your career is the only motivator, that's not where you're going to find your joy. If you don't balance your life at that point and see how it's affecting the other people that are around you, it's like a house of cards. And pretty soon things just start to disappear. And I believe God gave us a huge second chance to build our lives back, to build our marriage back. Listen, my husband wasn't being an angel either when things were crumbling, what can I tell you? It all came to a screeching halt, and we were able to take that big, deep, just that big, okay, what do we do now? How do we go in survival? And we found that little spot in the Hamptons where we opened that salon. That I chose my marriage. That's when I got the job with Ricky Lake, being her hairdresser on her TV show, because it was only 3 days a week, 2 shows a day. And the money was much less than freelance, but I didn't care at that point, right? And we just looked at how could we structure our lives to get back to what was the most important, the spiritual end of it, the marriage. And you know what? I believe that God honored everything that we did, and we took a step out in faith. And within 5 years, we were able to buy a building on Main Street in West Hampton Beach. We were able to rebuild one by one a staff that's still with me, working very hard there as we speak. My husband went into the restaurant business. He has 2 wonderful restaurants, but we never, ever, ever anymore live above our means, right? And we never take our relationship for granted. And we work on the things that count the most. And career is in there, I still have a huge career. It's still very important, but it's not the end all, if you get what I'm saying. It's wonderful when you have those other things in your life and your career is flowing, right? You know that you're, in a wonderful relationship, and career things just happen organically, but everything's I don't even know what to say. My life is in a beautiful balance right now. And I just turned 66. So at 66 years old, maybe it took me this long to figure it out. But if anybody ever needed any advice, boy, I've had it, I've lost it, I've had it, I've lost it, but I've learned such amazing lessons along the way about life. It's been
What
quite
would
a
you
journey.
say in a one short sentence? What is the most important thing that you learned through all of that?
So I think, going back, the most important thing that I said is quality of life. 3 words, quality of life. Because how do you have quality if your life is just consumed with your career? Your career should be a byproduct when everything else is going well. You've got that support. I mean, I've got the support of my family behind me, because businesses ebb and flow and ebb and flow. Who knew a pandemic was going to come along, right? But with the support of my family, of my close friends, because I built that quality into my life, we got through it seamlessly.
Congratulations.
Well,
Wow.
Thank you. But yeah, I would say keep an eye out for how is what you're doing as you start moving up that ladder. Take a step back and see how it's affecting those around you. Are you still paying attention to them? Are you making sure that those people know, especially how much you love them?
Gotcha. Understand. I need to take a deep breath too. That is an amazing story.
Yeah.
And wow. I think that for the hearts of the students that are watching this that do want everything, that is all about money. It's all about money, Mary. It's all about money. Every single thing, every mood they have is about money. So I think that what you said, if that could sink into the majority of these young 20-year-olds so that they can just build who they are, right? Be good at what you do. And like you said, everything will come to when it's supposed to. And you take it as it comes versus putting so much ahead of family, which that was brilliant.
I just said I just had this talk with somebody that's struggling a little bit, a friend, and I said, and this is something for students: don't ever equate joy with financial freedom, ever.
Oh,
I work with the wealthy 1%. My haircuts are hundreds of dollars. I teach in a salon where the haircuts go up to $1,000. I work with many very successful celebrities. It doesn't mean they have joy. I'm not saying they're all miserable. There's some people who know how to balance that. What I'm saying is, I just know so many people who have such great wealth that don't have joy in their lives, because if that's your be all and end all, is that financial reward, you're going to be left very empty at the end of your career. When you look around and you see you've ignored the most important things in life. Like I said, I was just talking to Chris, and I lost my sister 6 years ago, who was my best friend. She's only 11 months older than me. And I could think of so many times where I could just say, oh, if I could have just had 5 more minutes with her, or did I tell her enough that I loved her? Did I spend enough time with her? I believe I did. I mean, whatever. It's just like I said, don't lose sight. Your career is very important, and it should be fulfilling, but don't neglect everything else.
Do you think, sorry, Chris, I'm thinking about going back to what you brought up, Mary, about the session stylist, right? because it was a huge thing in the 80s, right? To be that. And
Yeah.
I'm so aware of that. And where do you think for the now stylists that would love to be in those shoes, where do you think that the session stylists kind of sit in this day and age with it all coming back? Is there still a need, a demand?
Oh, well, think about this. Everything that you see in advertising, somebody showed up to do the hair and the makeup.
Mhm.
No matter what you see, no matter what you're looking at, somebody showed up to do the hair and the makeup, and somebody showed up to dress them, right? So it's not just about being the hairdresser that did the cover of Vogue. That's not what freelance is all about. Freelance, we do everything from, catalog work. If you're lucky enough to get those big campaigns like a Donna Karan campaign, yeah, you're bringing in like $10,000 a day. But if you look at an Apple commercial, somebody showed up to groom the man that's the talking head, or the housewife that's talking about her Clorox bleach. Yes, there's always a huge need for freelance hair and makeup. Always. And it's still there. And it's even coming back more and more. I will tell you that the competition is fierce, because most of that happens here in New York. So like in Sally Hirschberger's, I'm interviewing kids and training kids that want to do all of like what I did. I've been very fortunate. I've been what they call a star request, working with Bette Midler on Broadway, and I was with Ricky Lake. So I got to do Broadway. I got to do TV. I got to do runway for, Fashion Week for Nicole Miller. I've gotten to touch every aspect of the industry, because people lead to people, and had fun with all of it. And it's because the competition here is so fierce, you're not always meeting the nicest people, because they're all competing for that same little piece of the pie. And here's my advice for that. Put your head down. Where am I looking at them? If right now, am I looking into their eyes of who's listening? Or if I look here?
Yeah.
Right here?
Right there.
Okay. Put your head down.
Screen.
Okay. So, because here's the camera.
There you go.
Put your head down, get to work, and then get the hell out. That's my best advice. Don't get into the BS. Don't get into the drama. Don't get into the negative people. Don't even bother with the very competitive people. Do what you do the best you can. Hone your skill and stay out of the drama. And you'll always be happy. Compete with yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Mary, if I had a highlighter right now, I would highlight your whole body.
You're so right, Mary, because on top of that, whoever employed you to do that shoot, they only want to work with people who are great to work with. They show up on time. They're prepared for any eventuality that might happen on that shoot. And we know eventualities happen. So it's not just about how good you are at doing hair and or makeup. It's about your personality and the way that you show up. And that's, I think, something that people don't always get when they're trying to go. We don't start out being a Guido Palau, for example.
Right.
It doesn't happen. People, it takes 25 years to become a star overnight.
Oh, well, people say all the time, you're so lucky, you're so lucky. And I say, yes, because the harder I work, the luckier I get. Here's the other thing. When you show up on the set, you have to realize, like in New York, we kind of like, I've heard this said, like people look at New York and you could just pull it in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean because it has nothing to do with the rest of the country when it comes to hair. That's because mostly when you're a hairdresser in New York, you're more or less in the fashion industry. You're not really in the quote unquote beauty world, right? Because you're always styling hair for fashion or advertising. So it's a little bit different. But here's the thing. Now you're having to please the client, who isn't someone who's sitting in your chair, is the art director for whoever, like let's say I'm doing a catalog shoot for Macy's, right? So if I'm in the hair and makeup room and I put somebody on the set and they say, no, 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 Mary, that's not our audience. That's not our customer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what I would say if we were having drinks. I'm not going to, well, I'm going to say, I'm so sorry. Tell me who you're going for. What's that demographic? Let me get them back. That's how open. So you have to take ego out of the equation.
Absolutely. And swallow any ego that is around you. You can't react. You just have to be on best behavior. Like you say, put your head down, do your job, and get out of there.
And get out.
Fast.
Don't even go to those parties. I remember back in the 80s and the early 90s, it was all about the big agencies, and then they would throw these big model parties, and of course everybody would go because they wanted to connect with the best photographers. I never went to those parties. I did go to studio, don't get me wrong. I did go dancing, but I didn't go to the fashion industry parties ever because I didn't want to get in the mix. I wanted to always be, and you have a couple of drinks or whatever, you letting your guard down a little bit. And I always wanted to be seen as professional, not that familiar. So, I don't think most of the clients that I've worked with, whether it's a celebrity or it's an agency that I work for, I honestly don't think I've ever had a situation that stands out that was bad. I don't think so, because it's all about problem solving. We're hairdressers. That's what we do on a daily basis.
Right.
I just left my salon. I just solved 7 problems. How did I get the client from what they have to what they want? Right. So it's, I don't know. Isn't life great? I'm just so happy to be here.
Amazing. And Mary, that wasn't kind of the only area of the industry that you were focusing on. So there came a point where you decided that maybe you wanted to teach from a platform. What happened then?
Well, that's when we met. So obviously, Trevor was looking for this, I guess, through Jane Kaplan. The phone call came one day when I was driving in my car. Trevor Sorby is about to come to the United States and put together an artistic team. And I was like, I don't know how to teach. I don't know. I know how to do what I do, but I don't know how to articulate. And, Jane encouraged me to come for the interview. And one thing led to another. And before you know it, this whole world opened up to me that I barely knew existed. And what happened the first time I stood on stage and actually thought I connected, right? There was something that started to connect, that I was making a difference. I said, this is it. This is now how I spend the rest of my career, even though I was doing all the other stuff. What a mind-blowing thing that was for me to be able to give back whatever I knew, because we always think, well, we're going through our career, I don't have anything to offer anybody else. This is what I do. But, they probably already know that, and then all of a sudden you're talking to people and watching light bulbs go off. And I've never turned back from education. It's really become, for me, on the forefront of, who I am as a hairdresser, because then I left all the other kind of stuff behind. And now I'm just focusing mostly strictly on education as I started a new online format for learning.
I know, and it's amazing, absolutely amazing. And it's Mary Brunetti Education, correct?
Yes, Mary Brunetti Education. The difference, I'm sorry?
I said, absolutely, it's incredible.
Well, the difference in what I'm doing, as I think, as compared to what I see out there, and it's all wonderful, because to me, all education is good. I don't have that monthly kind of membership where you join and then you get access, blah, blah, blah. No, I just decided, here's what's happening here right now. And I'm going to do the 5 looks that I think are the most asked for. You buy it once and you're done. There's no, you could join a membership where you could talk to me and talk to other people in the group, but it's not a monthly membership. It's a one and done. You buy it, you own it. Next. So I'm getting ready to do my next collection of, you know, what's kind of happening around here and what's hot. And I'm not your typical hair educator. Maybe I talk on a different level, maybe because I come from the perspective of I am still deep in the trenches, right? So I have my ear to the ground with the consumer, knowing what they're asking for on a daily basis, right? So I can approach it from somebody who's still seeing clients all the time. I can approach it as a salon owner because I still have my own salon out here in the Hamptons. And I'm an employee because I'm an employee of Sally Hirschberger. By the way, I'm not really involved in LA. I know you said that, and I go there like every now and then from time to time, and I do give them advice on their training program, but basically it's all the salons in New York. So from all that perspective, and from having, you know, touched on that classical training, of course, like with Trevor, I could take everything and every area that I've touched, cut corners somewhere. I still believe in the classics, but listen, from a salon owner point of view, I want you to get that haircut done, but you're not taking an hour to do it.
Right.
You know, you better work at salon speed. So, and that's what I have to teach at Sally's too, even though those kids are coming out on the floor and getting, you know, we start them at $150 a haircut on the floor. They have to do it in a timely manner, you know, so, and we encourage them, you know, don't go out there and do Sally. Don't go out there and do me. Go out there and be you. But I'm going to teach you how to get there quickly, you know.
Because I think, you know, having worked in New York myself, it's time is of the essence. And I know it is everywhere, all over the country, all over the world. But somehow that New York minute thing didn't come about for no reason.
Yeah.
And you've got to be so grounded in what you're doing that you can turn it around fast, and that client leaves happy, having had an incredible experience in that salon. And that's what I do think that you put across so well in your education, is that it's not a typical I'm teaching you from a platform, which is a lot of what the education out there is about.
Right.
So congratulations, and cool to know that you're just about to shoot your next one.
Yes, I can't wait. I mean, I had to wait through, we were going to follow it up right away with this next collection, but of course I wasn't going to do it when anybody was wearing a mask, even a clear mask. I didn't want anybody to be reminded, you know, what we were going through. But yes, my nephew Nathaniel, who is my sister who passed, oldest son, my sister always said, you know, he's a wonderful producer. And you see, it's so cinematic. I mean, it's like he builds a movie. He can't help himself, right? So lucky me. And he manages the whole thing from soup to nuts. All I do is show up and Aunt Mary, write a blog about this. Aunt Mary, somebody said this, answer that, right? It's wonderful, you know, but I am enjoying the journey, and I'm very anxious to get back in the studio, and I'll just be shooting collections, really just collections. And like I said, how to get the client from what they have to what they want. You're right, New York, they don't want to be sitting in your chair that long either. but I'm sorry, Joseph, are we leaving you out of the conversation?
No, but I want to make sure that you give us information that we can put on Iconic so that we can help you promote that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So don't, not that you would forget. I'm just reminding you that, you know,
Yes.
now you've got a lot of people excited that are watching this. So maybe they're going to want to know, like, well, where in the hell can I find Mary?
Okay.
So let me help you.
I can help you with that, because it's already up there. It's already out there, because the invitation to this Iconics, the links to Mary's website and
beautiful.
there's education already there. So
thank you.
follow her. Hey, we so appreciate you being with us, Mary. It's the least that we can do.
Well, thank you.
What's the worst job you've ever done?
The worst job out of all the jobs I've ever had, what's the worst job I've ever done?
Or was it an incident, you know? Yeah.
Okay, this is a funny story, and it actually happened in somebody's home, right? But it was a big lesson. So, you know, I'm a competitive equestrian, and I had my horse, because the winters are so harsh here in Florida, in Wellington, where all the horses live better than we do, right? And my horse trainer is very German woman, right? Very German, like being structured. Everything is so structured. You cut my hair. She loved my haircuts, but you will cut it when you get off your horse. You come to my house and I will give you iced tea. You cut it in my bed. I'm so, fine, Eva, come on, let's cut your hair. Now she got very thick, coarse red hair, like strong wave. I'm not going to say curly, very strong wave, right? And she normally wears her hair about 4 inches off her head and little style, cute. Anyway, she says to me, 1 inch. It's my summer haircut, Mary, 1 inch. So obviously I'm in her home. She's turned away from a mirror. So what do? I cut her hair 1 inch all over her head, thinking she wants a little pixie. She only wanted an inch off. That didn't happen 30 years ago, 40 years ago. This happened not that long ago.
Oh.
Translation.
Oh, that's the worst.
Always be clear when.
Well, what was her reaction? What was her reaction?
Hey! She was like, okay, so good for us. We were going to the same party that night, right?
Oh.
Everyone flipped over her haircut. And here's the thing, she kept it that way, right?
Oh.
For her summer haircut.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You started a trend.
The thing is, that's all about communication with your client, right? Always ask the question, even if you think it sounds ridiculous. Well, so shame on me. I should have said, well, Eva, you mean 1 inch off? You want me to keep one? But I guess just because she said my summer haircut, 1 inch, right? I want it to last. Always ask the question, even if you think it sounds stupid. That was the lesson learned there.
Oh, that's hilarious.
How crazy is that? You've been hairdressing how many years?
Yes, 48 years.
Exactly.
And I still got it wrong.
Yeah, because that is the power of the consultation.
Yes, it is.
Shortcuts to consultations.
No.
Really clear on is it 1 inch off or 1 inch left on.
Go figure.
European viewers, that's 2 centimeters, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, it was quite a difference. But anyway, it just like lesson learned.
Oh.
Just, don't take that for granted. But yeah, but I have to say, in answer to your question too, out of all the different areas that I've touched in my career, all the different, kinds of, like I said, like from working from Broadway and going here and going there, I've loved it all. I've loved every second of it. And I don't think I would change a thing. I wouldn't change anything except keeping my quality of life, but even that was a lesson that I felt both my husband and I, we had to learn that. We had to walk through what we walked through to get to where we are now. It was a big life lesson and it was a tough one, but it was, I say this all the time. It's a lot easier being poor when you're young than when you're older. So having lost everything then when we were in I guess we were in our late 30s at the time, early 40s, we had the luxury of time to build everything back and build it properly and keep everything in, in perspective,
And your appreciation is way greater.
Yeah.
Because you had been there. And that is such a huge lesson for anyone that is starting out or indeed been in the business for a few years. None of us are exempt from those sort of lessons.
Yeah.
What are you going to ask, Mary? I know you're dying.
Well, I'm, you know what? After my morning, I am so at peace right now that listening to you two beautiful girls talking about an industry that I have a passion for, I am just at peace. But yes, I do have a question because as I'm leaving the world of owning a salon for 25 plus years and having 40 employees of such, I want to ask Mary personally, what is your biggest challenge that you feel is in the salon for you today?
Oh, God, I'm experiencing it right now. It's very, very difficult staffing these days. And I honestly believe it's because, everybody's like right? Doing the young people, I'm saying, all their conversation is here. It's not here, right? So even when they come in for interviews, the first thing that I'm looking at is, are they looking me in the eye? That they're just not social beings. I'm not going to make a blanket statement, but a lot of the people coming out of school that are coming to us from coming out of beauty schools today haven't been as good communicators as I've seen in years past. And I think that's because the art of conversation has been lost, and communication, real eye to eye, feel my heart, feel what I'm saying. You know, they take a day off and they're texting you, or that's the biggest challenge, is staffing and
accepted.
It's tough across the board.
You know, I think that owning an academy, I see the phone is in their hand all the time. And then of course, I kind of always fought the process of having them have iPads, but you couldn't help it because all their education was coming now into an iPad versus a book, right? But you know, I have my biggest challenge, and Chris knows this, is coming from the world I've come from as far as consultation, cutting, and design. It is so diluted. I mean, it's these YouTube, and nothing wrong with YouTube. We're on YouTube, but they go to YouTube for education. It's so messed up. And they're jumping over to the whole, this is how I build the house before I actually side it or paint it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
They don't see that first. They struggle. And man, I don't know. I mean, I see that to be one big struggle in a school, because I hear that from salon owners right now. Their work when they come out, but they're not wanting to do cutting. I don't know how to make cutting fun again.
Oh, because everybody they see so much Instagram, and with the influencers, everything is about color, 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 color. Well, you know, I think part of that too is because we, from a hair cutter's point of view, I don't think we're ever going to see like so like in the 70s, when the shag first hit, when Graduated Bob, everything that was coming at us was coming out for the first time. So it was fresh, new, and mind-blowing, right? So now we've gone from short to long, long to short, this way, that way, every angle possible. How are we ever really going to see something that nobody's ever seen before? It's the same thing in fashion. We went through the Mary Quant days, right? And with mini skirts. So hemlines were going from here to there, to there, to there. And it was the first time we ever saw it. So 60s had a stamp on fashion, 70s, 80s, even a little bit 90s, then everything got diluted, right? So the only thing I could see with hair and being excited about being a hairstylist is our finishing and pay attention, because I've noticed also a lot of people who I audition for a job and see what they do. They take out one round brush and that's all they know how to use. They forget that there's a vent brush, a Denman brush, a flat brush. You know, there's so many styling possibilities, but who do I fault that to? I don't know. Is that not being taught in the schools, that here's your arsenal? It's not just one round brush and a beach wave. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's fine. I think we have to get them excited about the finishing again, because that's where the other part of our artistry comes into place, that not everybody has to walk out looking the same. And why aren't you offering that change to your client, you know?
Oh, Mary, you have just, for me, nailed that answer.
Yes.
Because when I was still teaching full-time, when I was still living in New York full-time, the frustration that I would be going through when I would go into salons teaching classes, and the lack of interest in what the finished end result looks like, me, was heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. Same here. When people hire me to come to their salons and they want hands-on education, you know, I always built a course that was called Finish Before You Start, right? So when somebody comes to my salon, when somebody comes to Sally's, I incorporate that there. They start out finishing, learning a great finish, because sometimes we do have to send these kids out on shoots or to assist it or shoot, or, we want to start making money with them right away. Good. Put them on the floor to do gorgeous finishing and blowouts. And it's not just about a bubble kind of set, but yes, traveling to other salons, where I see, I don't know how to stop that. I'm sorry.
But
That
oh,
ding.
it's okay. It's okay.
But anyway, yeah. So basically, that is my biggest pet peeve, that they were so focused on what I was doing for the haircut, but then they were paying no attention that, there's so many different ways to finish a look. There's so many options that you can offer your client in the finishing. Get excited about how to style hair.
Yeah, and on that note, if you were not the stylist that you are in respect of your finishing capabilities, you would not have been on Broadway, you would not have been doing fashion weeks, and you would not have been doing editorial work, because each one of those areas requires you to know how to do anything, whether it's historical, whether it's fashion designers or producers of a Broadway show, they're not going to be teaching you what they mean by a 30s look. They're not going to be teaching you how to do a wig, for example.
Right.
So when kids have these aspirations, which is wonderful to have aspirations, but just know that you have to learn so much, and the only way really to learn it is to go and be an assistant to Mary Brunetti.
Yes.
And not expect to get paid, but pass her pins, and you better pass them the right way around so she can just slip them into the hair. Because really, that's what I think. I mean, I know you've done it, Mary. I've done it, Joseph. I know you've done it. We've all worked for nothing, purely because of what we can learn from being this close to someone, learning how they do things.
Yes.
If we're not prepared to do that, then forget about the aspirations, really, because they do not just happen to you.
And you're only doing half of your job, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
That you're only half a hairdresser, as far as I'm concerned. If you really don't know how to move that hair around the head, how to get that beautiful Hollywood wave. And you're right, even wigs. I was thrown into the deep end when I had to first start really working with wigs and lace fronts and all that. And many a night I spent with my mannequin. If I showed you my basement right now, I have your mannequins, which I absolutely love. But yes, styling. I mean, you're a hair stylist. And if I want
to say that there was a way that we could capsulate in its own video the last 12 minutes of what you two just profoundly said. That is what is going to change the industry. I believe what you just said with learning the styling and starting off in a salon, just styling. I mean, that is truly the way it can come back, Mary, because styling is forlorn. Just what Chris just said as well was brilliant. Both of you.
Well, if you don't know how to move hair around the head, then you don't actually understand the head, and the head shape, so you have to learn first how hair moves around the head shape and how to get it. I mean, when I hear hairdressers say, well, no, I don't style hair, I just cut hair. What do you mean? They don't go out with their hair wet. I mean,
you wouldn't get away with that as Sally Hirschberger, as far as
no way. And when a client says they're going out to dinner, and I've just done their hair, so I have an assistant that does my blow dries mostly now, because after 48 years, everything's hurting. Yeah. But I say, put that client back in my chair, and I put in a little chignon. I put whatever it is. It's like, boom, you just transform their look, from, the casual to, I'm going to go to a dinner party. It's so easy to do, but so many hairdressers are afraid. They don't know how to pin.
Yeah.
They don't know how to prep the hair. They don't know how to pin the hair. so, and that's but what freedom when you really learn that any picture that anybody shows you, you could break it down to the series of techniques that were used there, and even the styling techniques. It's such power for me to stand behind a client and say, I could do anything with your hair.
Of course. Of course.
Anything. You ask me. I'll, of course, suitability we're talking about, but I'm not afraid to pick up a pin or a curling iron or a flat iron. You got, I say in my promo, one of the first things I say for Mary Brunetti Education when I'm talking in my ad is I say, did anybody ever show you a picture that you didn't know how to do? And then I say, what did you do? And then I say, did you talk them out of it? Because I hear it all across the country, if somebody's not that proficient in doing little precise haircuts, what do you do when somebody shows you a picture that I literally have had hairdressers put their head down in shame and say, I talked them out of it. And I don't get mad. I just say, okay, let's fix that. We could fix this,
Absolutely. And I think you're right, Mary, that it's based on our own fear is what stops us trying to learn these things.
Yes.
Push the fear to one side and just learn. Go on Mary Brunetti Education and just
I'm going there.
Thank you. So funny.
I'm gonna wear your t-shirt.
Well, listen, for all the pure hair cutters that I don't style hair, I don't put it, because there is fear, and maybe there's fear and they don't want to talk about it. Well, how daunting was it the first time you saw a graduated bob until somebody broke it down into steps and then you practiced it, right? It's the same thing with pinning hair. And I mean, even just like I have two sides up, but it's like, they won't even do this, and little girls sometimes can do this, figure it out because they play with their own hair. But we are in such an amazing industry with so many doors that can be opened, limitless possibilities, and the chance to make a really good living. Open your eyes, explore everything that's available to you, because what a landscape. It's like somebody is putting a banquet in front of you and says, come and eat. And you don't even see it. It's like, come and eat. It's like you could do so much and make such, even if you just say, I just want to be the best salon stylist I could be. Good for you. Do you know how many lives you're changing every day? I mean, just to make a woman feel better about themselves is incredible. And that's why I'm still behind my chair.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people learned that during the pandemic, and that was a global thing as well.
Yeah.
And okay, so we're gradually all coming out of our lockdowns and rules are being changed. And now in England, we heard that maybe by the 19th of July, we don't have to socially distance anymore. Okay, well, let's not forget how much you missed your hairdresser. So just have some respect for those that really, really do learn as much as that they possibly can. Do they charge more? Absolutely. They made that investment.
Yeah, absolutely right. And if you don't value what you do, neither will anybody else. So sometimes, listen, the cost of living changes. Every time I do a price increase in my own salon, the stylists get nervous and say, oh, but I'm going to lose. Yes, you may lose some. Well, refer those to the people who were at your old prices. So the business stays in the salon, right? But you will gain clients at your new price level. Don't ever be afraid to put up your prices.
Here.
Crazy. We don't go to the doctor and say, well, you didn't charge that much the last time you fixed it.
That's true.
That is true. And that's a very, very good point. But
wow.
I love all this. It's so
I do
good.
too. You are there's like clips of you, Mary, that I could just throw into the school program, because the last words out of your mouth, that should be on a TV in the admission director's office. You've got a buffet in front of you. I mean, come on.
It's the truth. You
It
just
is the truth. It is
just
the
open your
truth.
eyes and see the opportunity.
It
There
is
are
the truth.
opportunities in front of you every day.
You know what, Mary? I'm going to talk to you. I need to talk to you privately. I'm involved in locally in a 50, 60-mile radius on a board where they're now having, they're wanting the students to know about the trade, right? They're promoting trade, not four-year colleges. That's the new thing now. Everything's about trade, plumbing,
Well,
style.
try to get a plumber or electrician to your
Yes, yes.
home.
Now, my job for August 25th is try to get parents to come to something I'm speaking at about the trade that we are in. And the thing is, what I deal with are parents that think I'm a hobbyist in hair.
Right.
There's parents that think that my student can absolutely, my kid can't go to why don't they go to a four-year college first and then maybe come and see if they like what it is you're doing. And my thing is well, if you want to have them owe 100,000 in 4 years, great. Or do you want to have them make 100,000 in 4 years? I mean, it's truly up to you. But the biggest fear, Mary, is what the neighbor's going to think. Seriously.
That is mind-blowing.
Isn't it? I'm hearing it. Like these young kids that want to go into this and they go home and their parents completely taboo it. I witness it all the time. Beautiful young girl, works in theater, was helping me out with The Wizard of Oz. I said, man, you need to go to hair school. You're a natural. She was pinning hair up. She's a junior.
Yeah.
She's like, no, my parents already told me, don't even think about it. I was heartbroken. I wanted to go to her house with her and talk to her parents.
Well, unfortunately, that is like one point of view. I think people are starting to realize that if their child isn't, and it doesn't mean that their child isn't intelligent, but
Sure.
some people just aren't as academically inclined, right? And they do like to work with their hands. So, and that's where, like I'm saying, bring them into the trades. I mean, electrical people who have electrical contracting jobs, right, are on their boats in Portofino. I mean, come on. And you didn't want your kid to be a plumber or an electrician or a hairdresser, by the way, who, like you said, it's easy to get into the six figures in this industry. But here's the thing. What we also, I think we need is to teach them, because it's not necessarily what you make, it's what you keep, right? And I see it here in New York because, these people tip for a shampoo, $10, $15, $20. So they've got all that cash in their pocket. And sometimes they make the wrong decision, what to do with that. So yes, I think that these parents, maybe you could prepare like a little documentary on the industry, what's available to these kids in the industry and where they can take their career. I know people come into my salon, they have great respect for the hairdressers because I look at it on such a high level.
Yeah.
And that's the way my students conduct themselves, how you want to be seen, act the way you want to be seen. So act as a professional. So they're not talking about where they went last night for dinner or what movie they saw. They're, I just heard my New York accent come out there. Not what they saw, but yes, but I understand. So there's part of the industry that did that to us, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That hairdressers on some level maybe did that.
Yeah.
But we could change that perception.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And you know what, Joseph, you have everything that you need in our iconics. We have now, I think, 52 hours of our icons in the industry speaking. What you should do is watch all of those and edit them to then make that documentary the best of.
Yeah, just sound bites. Just putting in sound bites of people's careers who are successful and happy and enjoying what they do, passionately. Yeah, you could do that, Joseph. I think
Yeah.
that would be wonderful to show that.
I think so too. I think I know it's there. You
Yeah.
know, it's like all of our accomplishments are there and we know it, but it's when we're reminded about them, right? That it sounds like, yeah, of course, Chris, duh. Well, but what I've heard from Mary is truly hit my heart, um, for my passion of what I want others to know about the industry that I've been in for 40 years and how many hearts I've changed and how many lives I've changed, all of us. So I think you just really, both of you today were outstanding in this interview, because I took a, yeah, there's so much that you said that can be the start of the sound bites. So
Well, Chris, I believe that's how we connected 30 years ago. We have the same kind of heart sense of,
and you know, that's what I was saying about working for nothing. You know, don't always expect a monetary reward, because the reward in your heart will be priceless.
right.
I can't buy it.
Yeah.
Really, it has been an honor to have you on Iconics. We really, really thank you for taking the time to be with us and for educating our industry on things that you learned in your life, and for all that you do with Mary Brunetti Education. So thank you.
Did I check your boxes today?
Well,
Yes.
I knew you would.
yeah, there was a few boxes that you created and checked off on your own, which I just want to thank you for. I personally too, from Joseph to you, Mary, I want to say thank you so much. You are definitely an icon in this industry. You've made huge differences to what this industry is all about, and you continue to. And I myself personally, and I know Chris feels the same, we will promote you as much as we can because we believe in it. We believe in what it is that you're doing. And
Thank you.
You know what? You are just really, really beautiful. And I mean that. So continue to do what you do. You've changed. As always, I will send this all out as an encouragement for all the schools to listen to. And I really, really hope that they listen to this one closely, because this was one of our better interviews that we've done. And I've got two girls, not one is better than the other. They're both great. All our documentaries are great.
Of course.
But because I say that this one was definitely in the top.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, you know, I'm speaking from my heart, and I speak from my heart right now when I just tell everybody to follow your heart, but always do the right thing in every situation. You'll never go wrong. Just always do the right thing. Consider the other person, prefer the other person, and you'll always rise to the top.
Love it, Mary B.